Hey, how's it going, you guys? In today's podcast, I'm gonna get into the very big details on how I make an extra $30,000 to $50,000 a year on just flipping land. All right. Once again, my name is Elias, and I want to get into the very big details of what these real estate investors really don't tell you when it comes to, making money with land. And the reason why I started doing this was because at a very early age, when I was 16, I got my first Texas Roadhouse job. Right, I was a busboy and I ran into a little bit of capital, right? But I always wanted to become a realtor. So I was working on graduating high school and getting licensed and whatnot, right? But my big thing was I wanted to become a real estate investor. And I always thought, well, maybe I have to have $10, $20, $30,000 to get started. My first piece of property back in 2017 or 18, it was only like $1,500. Shout out to my boy Dan Barrero. He was a very big reason why I got started with all this, right? But that's kind of more or less why, or my journey as to how I got started. I always had this mentality of like, man, if I have $5,000 in the bank, I know for a fact I'm gonna spend a lot of it, right? I was 17, so I knew for a fact I was going to be spending on Louis Vuitton belts or new shoes or just, basic kid stuff, right? But I'll tell you right now, I really want to jump into this fairly quick and give you all the information you pretty much need to know if this is a good investment or not, right? So first and foremost, right, make sure the land is priced well. Make sure that, this $15,000, $20,000 piece of land is priced good, right? So you might think it might be already cheap, but if you really do a CMA, right, a comparative market analysis, which you can use a realtor or do it yourself, right? Just what it is you're pretty much looking around the surrounding areas on if the land is priced well, right? You might see sometimes that $20,000 lot, that's 1 acre, there's 5 of them on the market, and some of them might be 5,000, 10,000, and that kind of comes to show you that real estate is always going to be negotiable. Doesn't matter what type of market it is, right? Always have that in mind. It's always negotiable. Right now, this very moment, October 18th, it's a buyer's market. Best interest rates around since COVID 2020. So definitely look into that. And if you ever need any help, always reach out. You guys have me on Instagram. Another cool thing I want to tell you guys is also make sure that it makes sense for you, right? Like the surrounding areas is up and coming. It's not super rural. I can buy land right now, this given moment, for like $3,000 an acre in New Mexico, middle of nowhere. Why would you want to buy that? Right? It makes no sense to buy something like that because at the end of the day, what are you going to do with the piece of dirt that's in the mountains, right? Miles away from civilization. Definitely don't buy into that. If you are interested, though, definitely give me a call. But another thing I want to tell you guys is make sure it's not landlocked either, right? That's another big point here. Meaning there's no easement there, right? You can buy a lot of property that's dirt cheap, but you have to get in through somebody else's property to get to your piece of land. Just imagine this, a square box, right? 14 acres, let's just say. Somebody owns that, but they're trying to section out a little piece of land that's an acre in the very smack dab middle of those 14 acres, right? You can buy land for very dirt cheap in a landlocked place, but you don't want to do that. It's the worst investment to get into. Definitely shy away from that. So no landlocked, no easement, right? Another one would be zoning. I typically always look for R2 zoning. Meaning you can build a single family home, a duplex, triplex, and I think even a fourplex, and even small apartment buildings there. So definitely look into the zoning. You don't want to buy, agricultural place and think one day you're going to build a house. You can't legally do that, So definitely look into the zoning. Another thing is a very key point to buying anything is please look into the title. Meaning if there's any liens on the property, never invest into any liens in the property. That means you just have to pay off the other person's debt or whatever happened, right? There's many reasons why you can get a lien on the property, so definitely shy away from that, right? And what you can do there is be proactive. Run it through a title company. Every single purchase you do, just run it through a title company. You can obviously, a real estate attorney can do that. If you're a realtor, you can also do that. Even if you don't have any license to do anything, you can definitely still run a title search for yourself. But save yourself the headache. Just run it through a title company. they're going to run the title for 30 years back and make sure that there's no liens on the property, right? And what I typically do too, this is a major key as to why I get into land flipping. My thing is, my secret sauce is always do seller financing. I mean, think about it. Seller financing is pretty much you speaking to the direct owner. You're not going through any lending company. You're not going through any bank, right? That can typically mess up the whole transaction, right? Say, for example, your credit's not up to par. They wouldn't lend you any money. Say, for example, you haven't been employed for the last 6 months. They can say no. For whatever reason, a lender or a bank can pretty much decline you for whatever they want. So I like to lean towards seller financing, right? Now, what it is you're speaking directly to the seller. So you'll say, hey, Mr. Seller, I want to buy your piece of property for 10 grand instead of 12 grand. They'll say, okay, great, right? And you do $2,000 deposit, and for the next 3-4 years, you pay them $250. Just an example there, That's typically what I do. The cool thing about seller financing is, even if you want to buy, right, with seller financing, that doesn't technically mean that you can't sell. So right back to the same example, $10,000. Say, for example, God forbid, something happens to you financially and you can't continue to pay the seller, right? So now you need $5,000 left to pay the full property. You can sell that property for 15, 20 grand. All you have to do is just with that same contract you guys wrote, you have to pay them back the 5 grand you owe them. The remainder balance that you get from that property that you sell, right in your pocket. And that's what I like to do. That's what you guys don't understand. My thing is, I seller finance it, buy it for 10 grand, put the very bare minimum down. I'm talking $2,000 to $3,000. And right off the bat, not even a year later, I'm selling that property, right? For double the price that I bought it for. For example, I'll give you kind of like the breakthrough of what I do. I'll buy R2 zoning property. It can be half an acre. It can be less, 25% of an acre, right? That's what your typical house right now in the market is pretty much measured as. So I'll look for that. I'll buy for, say, the grand total of 10 grand, right? I'm only putting $2,000 down. 3 months later, I'm selling that property for at least 15 grand. You do the math, how much money you make, right? So this is how I make an extra 20 to 50 grand a year. That's what some people make when they're 9 to 5 a whole year, just working, right? 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week sometimes. Easiest thing to do is seller financing. That's how you're gonna get the best bang for your buck at the end of the day. And the best interest rates too. And I'll say half of my deals, there's no interest at all. That's the best thing about it. I mean, if you ever have any questions, just so you guys know, you can always hit me up. Some of you guys might have my phone number. Some of you guys might just have my Instagram. And definitely, you can just don't be shy. Definitely reach out whenever it is that you guys want. That way we can always strategize with you. I'll even find the properties for you, right? Because a lot of times you don't know where to begin. And it's super fine. I'm licensed for this. You give me a call, tell me your budget, and tell me your ideal type of property. And especially if it's particularly land flipping, I can make that happen easily. You'll be closing in about a week. The only thing about this land flipping and seller financing in particular is you don't receive the deed until you pay off the full balance. But who cares if your whole mindset and strategy is to make money? Forget about the deed. I have countless deeds in my drawer right now. I mean, makes no sense, right? If your whole thing is to make money off of this, right? So always keep in mind, there's a lot of ways to get into real estate. It doesn't particularly have to be the traditional route of buying and selling or renting. Definitely get into land flipping. I know it's a little boring, right? But it's actually exciting for me because I go out there. The first few deals I bought, I actually flew out there, I took a road trip and said, oh man, this took pictures and whatnot. But now in today's day and age, I really don't care. I just call that title company around that area, run the title search, contact the seller, close the deal. And if I really want to, I'll go out there and put for sale signs or run a blog or whatnot. But if the numbers make sense, why not do it right? Once again, my name is Elias and I would love to help you guys out whenever you guys want to. Always reach out. You can DM me, ask my phone number. I'll always be more than happy to kind of give you more information on how to get started. And I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and saw how informational this was. Once again, my name is Elias. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Florida. But if you want to invest anywhere, Michigan, Texas, I can get you involved with any realtor in any state. Thank you so much, and hope you guys love the podcast.